Now in this particular model vehicle, before you perform this task, you want to make sure that the four-wheel drive selector is in the all-wheel drive, not the four-wheel lock or the four-low, all-wheel drive. Once you have your vehicle jacked up and supported with jack stands, you then want to go ahead and take another jack, maybe put a block of wood or something on it. We're going to go ahead and put some support underneath our transfer case. We're going to lightly jack this just so that it catches the weight, but we're not going to lift the vehicle. Now what we're going to do is remove the 8 15mm nuts and bolts, 2 here, and these 4 over here. Remove these 2 transmission crossmember bolts. Loosen this one here. We just switched over to a 15mm ratchet wrench here. Make things a little bit easier because you can't fit a socket in there. So that bolt there will come out once we remove the rest of the bracket. Now, for safety's sake, there's only one more bolt holding this whole beam in place. What we're going to do is take one of our original bolts, put it back on, and just loosely catch it a few threads. That way, when we remove this last bolt up here, the whole bracket doesn't come falling down. Once you get that bolt out there, you can go ahead and use a pry bar and go ahead and try and separate these units here. Now we've had the bracket loose, I'm going to go ahead and remove our bolt here. And go ahead and pull that crossmember down, set that aside. Now remove this 10mm nut off of the stud, that way we can remove this heat shield. We're going to use a 10mm deep socket, a swivel, and a small extension to go ahead and reach this upper 10mm bolt right up behind the connector. Let's go ahead and loosen that. And then we'll go ahead and remove it. Now you want to remove this 10mm bolt right here. Then we're going to go ahead and remove this 13mm stud unit here, holding the transfer case shift motor to the transfer case. slowly lower it down. So I'm going to go ahead and push this little red lock tab up. We're using a small screwdriver just to gently work that up. Press down on the tab and disconnect the connector. I'm going to press down on this tab right here, slide the connector off. And once you have the old one out and you have the new one beside it, you want to make sure that the keyway is positioned in the same position for the new one. This model vehicle says that it should be in the all-wheel drive position, not the four-wheel drive low or anything like that. So you just want to make sure it's in the all-wheel drive position, and you notice that the key is on the side right here, and same on the one that we just took out. So this should be an easy in and out installation. Let's take our new unit and our connector, line that up. Press that down all the way, and then we're going to press our lock tab down into place. There we go. Let's go ahead and get this line back up. Line up the keyway on the transfer case motor. Like so. Then we're going to reinstall our lower stud bolt. We did put a little bit of blue Loctite on there. I'm going to go ahead and get that threaded in to the transfer case. I'm going to go ahead and thread that in as far as I can by hand. I'm going to move to the other 10mm bolt right here. And start getting that bolt threaded by hand. Now, for some reason, if this keyway is not lining up with the shaft on the transfer case, you do not want to grab any pliers or anything and start twisting and moving it. At that point there, you want to step back and reevaluate where your all-wheel drive lever is in or your button is positioned, and then reassess. Take our last 10mm bolt. Gonna go ahead and feed this up and get that put back in. And once you have all three started, you can go ahead and snug those down. We're just going to go ahead and snug these bolts down. If you have the ability to do so, you want to go ahead and torque the 3 bolts down to 12 foot-pounds. Install your heat shield between the transfer case motor and the exhaust. You don't want to snug up this bolt yet, or this nut. Want to make sure we can get our bolt for the crossmember lined up. I'm going to go ahead and put our crossmember back up. And just want to get one nut and bolt started here. That'll hold it in place, and then we'll get the other bolts in. Go ahead and install the transmission mount bolt. Once you get that set a few threads, go ahead and install the other side. Let's go ahead and snug up these bolts. Once that's snug, go to the other side and snug that one up. Now let's go ahead and tighten up all of the transmission crossmember bolts. On the back side here, for clearance issues, we're going to tighten up the back bolt or the outer bolt first. Once that's tight, we'll go ahead and put the other bolt in, make it a little bit easier. Now that we have the crossmember tightened down, let's go back and just double check these bolts up top here. And you want to snug those down. Now we can go ahead and lower our transfer case jack and remove that. Now the job is done. You want to go ahead and test it to make sure everything is operational. You can turn the key to the on position. You can go ahead and select your four-wheel lock. You can listen for it. Check the dashboard, make sure that the four lock is on. And then we want to go ahead to the four low and it'll flash the four low. You want to go ahead and come back to the all-wheel drive. It'll disengage, you'll hear it audibly, and you know that everything went well.